Thank you for being here, friends. You are deeply appreciated. Before we dive into the mystery, just make sure you're subscribed to the channel, please. I know the algorithm has been acting strangely, and people are getting unsubscribed left and right. I have nearly 500,000 subscribers, yet I only get credit for 20 to 25,000 weekly views. Honestly, that simply doesn't add up. It's statistically impossible. It feels like we're being shadow banned, maybe because the truth we discuss is just too uncomfortable for some. But we won't stop. I'm going to appreciate every single person who is here and listening today. The case we're looking at today is one you've likely never heard about, yet it is a chilling, dead-bang missing 411 case right down the line. It involves a 12-year-old girl named Brenda Blimman, who vanished on May 7, 1961. This all happened on a seemingly innocuous trail near Lake Enid in British Columbia, right in the central southern part of the province. Brenda lived just 15 miles away in Radium Hot Springs with her family. She was 5 feet tall, 100 pounds, with freckles, and was wearing a distinctive purple and blue parka, gray slacks, and blue and white Oxford shoes when she disappeared. Remember that description, it's the only solid thing we have. The day before the vanishing, May 6th, Brenda was staying at her grandmother's home in Wilmer, a short distance from the area. She met up with her friend, Vivian Barrett, who was slightly older, and together they planned a hike. 3 local boys, Edward Carson, John Carson, and Edward Godley, aged between 12 and 17, joined them. This group of 5 set out to hike, possibly intending to fish at Lake Enid. The accounts are already muddy right here. Some claim they were only supposed to go on a short local hike, while others insist fishing at the lake was always the destination. This early discrepancy, right at the start, is a red flag we often see in these confounding cases. Vivian Barrett later explained to Brenda's mother what happened next. While the group was deep on the trail, a very sudden, intense hailstorm erupted. The kind of localized, fierce weather event we've come to associate with these types of disappearances. Everyone instinctively decided to take cover from the sudden onslaught. But Brenda was anxious. It was approaching her 4 p.m. pickup time. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, friends, the optimum time for a vanishing. Knowing she would miss her parents, Brenda told the group she had to keep walking down the trail, even though the hail was still coming down hard. The 4 remaining individuals watched Brenda walk away down the path. This was the point of separation. They saw her disappear around a bend, walking away from the shelter they had found. They were between the town of Wilmer and the lake, in a landscape that is extremely wild and unforgiving. A true wilderness known for its grizzly bears and mountain lions. When Brenda's parents arrived at the grandmother's house at 4 p.m., she wasn't there. Her father immediately rushed out to search the trail, but the hours were already slipping away. Something unnatural was clearly at play in that moment on the trail. The RCMP were called in quickly, and they began interviewing the teens. The search escalated rapidly. By May 8th, the entire local community was galvanized. For nearby cities, Invermere, Athamer, Windermere, and Wilmer, shut down all their mills, mines, and businesses. They told their hundreds of male employees, "Go search for Brenda." A staggering 400 men showed up, all coordinated by the RCMP, who also called in a helicopter. This was a massive, immediate response, yet they were searching an area that seemed to have literally swallowed the girl whole. The searchers operated under standard search and rescue parameters, which state that 75% of children Brenda's age are found within 2 miles of the last seen point. Yet, as we know from following the 411 pattern, those rules rarely apply in these baffling cases. On May 10th, the mother spoke to the press, fearing Brenda was alive, scared, and maybe evading the searchers in a panicked state. They had 70 men on horseback, 400 on foot, and scuba divers searching all the local waterways. But here is an ominous detail. During this initial search, we know for a fact that a faint, shimmering, unnatural blue light was seen by 2 of the searchers near the point of separation. The men were advised by the RCMP to ignore it, but the light was there. The RCMP dismissed local talk of animal predation, and for good reason. A grizzly or mountain lion attack leaves an ultra-gruesome, unmistakable scene. Blood, torn clothing, drag marks. There was absolutely nothing To guide Brenda, the authorities had huge bonfires built atop the surrounding hills and mountains, hoping she would walk toward the light. It rained and froze. By May 11th, the conditions were brutal. The RCMP mentioned a rumor of a girl getting into a light blue station wagon the day after Brenda went missing, but they publicly declared the report unfounded. Yet, they mentioned it anyway, almost as a diversionary tactic. The official search was conducted by local volunteers, not professional search and rescue teams, raising questions about their thoroughness. The RCMP helicopter was grounded due to the bad weather, another key 411 feature. And most troubling of all, 2 separate canine units were brought to the scene, and neither could pick up a single scent trail to follow. It's as if Brenda's physical form was instantly removed from the environment, leaving no trace for the dogs. They dragged every lake, river, and pond. Nothing. Brenda had literally stepped out of the known world. On May 12th, the searchers found an Oxford-style shoe, raising hopes, but Brenda's mother quickly dismissed it as not hers. The search had to expand, pushing deeper into the woods, far beyond the 2-mile radius. A search crew, pushing into a remote section on May 13th, made a truly strange discovery. An ancient, non-Brenda skull, later linked to a disappearance from 1931. This showed the incredible effort of the searchers. However, by this point, the men were exhausted, and they weren't being paid. The number of searchers dropped from 400 to 250 as people had to go back to work. By May 15th, the RCMP stated they had searched all possible areas at least twice. On May 16th, they announced they would conduct one more large sweep, but if no clues were produced, they would wind down the operation. Meanwhile, Brenda's father, David Blimman, was breaking himself, searching 14 hours a day, sustained only by adrenaline. On May 18th, the RCMP abruptly reversed their earlier statement and said they were now looking into the possibility Brenda had gotten a ride out of the area. This shift, with no supporting evidence, strongly suggests they were preparing the public for a non-recovery outcome, using a soft explanation. The final, official word came down on May 23rd. The search was terminated, having officially concluded on May 22nd. The Mounties, just 5 days after suggesting she might have gotten a ride, stated definitively that they believe she is dead and the case is closed. They offered no evidence, no explanation, no remains. How do you close a missing person case with no body? It makes no sense unless they were absolutely certain she was gone, perhaps taken by an unseen, untraceable force. Her father, Ingvar, heartbroken, searched for years until his death at 59, never finding peace. This is where the story takes a dark, cryptic turn. In the mid-1970s, 3 preteen boys, playing in a forbidden area of the woods, reportedly came across an intact small skeleton. They never told anyone, fearing punishment, and swore an oath to keep the secret, burying the small bones. In 2001, one of the men came forward to the RCMP, but they couldn't find the spot. The story is highly suspect. An intact skeleton rarely lasts long in the wilderness. It's possible this entire skeleton story was a piece of local folklore, a time travel mystery from a different, earlier vanishing that the boys stumbled upon, or simply a deep woods warning passed down through the generations. The most critical piece of information emerged much later, in 1991. An RCMP cold case detective wisely brought in all 4 original witnesses, Vivian Barrett, Edward Carson, John Carson, and Edward Godley, for questioning as adults. After interviewing them individually and finding their stories consistent, he asked each one to take a polygraph. Shockingly, all 4 agreed and they all passed. They were telling the truth. They last saw Brenda walking down that trail, and they had absolutely no involvement in her disappearance. This single detail eliminates human foul play at the scene and points directly to the unexplainable, the paranormal activity that often surrounds these mountain disappearances. With the witnesses cleared, we are left with the inexplicable. What caused this instant, silent vanishing? The car door slam rumor that popped up years later, that Brenda was abducted, simply doesn't fit the facts or the polygraph results. The truth is much stranger. Was this a classic case of alien abduction, where an unknown craft briefly touched down during the hail, taking the most isolated individual? Or did she inadvertently wander into a local legend, a skinwalker ranch-type energy signature in the British Columbia wilderness, where the laws of nature simply dissolve? Without a single piece of evidence, we must conclude that Brenda Blimman stepped onto that trail and was cleanly removed from our dimension. Even today, the Brenda Blimman case remains unsolved, assigned to a cold case detective despite the closed designation from 1961. With the parents and most of the original witnesses now gone, the likelihood of finding the truth is near zero. We have a vanishing near a water source, sudden and unusual weather, loss of scent for canines, and a point of separation followed by an immediate, untraceable absence. This is the missing 411 signature. We admire her siblings who are still fighting for answers, but the questions asked of the witnesses, even those polygraph questions, only confirm the known facts. Brenda walked away and then, nothing. Thank you for listening to this confusing, deeply mysterious case. Be safe. Be kind. Paulides out.